the edge of the universe, 400 men and women are probing the immeasurable blackness of space. Their leaders are an Earthman with no fear and a stranger with no heart. Travel beyond our time and solar system, into new galaxies, into worlds beyond your dreams. Star Trek, every week, in color.
Hello, welcome. It's holy cow! It's Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time. I'm pretty sure this is the internet that we're on. Wait, something doesn't feel right. What's wrong? What is going on here? Oh, wait a second. There we go. It's time for Serious Star Trek. Let's bring in. I understand we've got a lot of Star Trek to talk about today, so let's bring in those guys that know a lot about Star Trek. You know him, you love him as the Doctor, Dr. Johnny Price, PhD. How you doing, John? Oh, no audio for John. he's working on it. So wait a minute, while we get the crew to work on those audio problems, let's bring in Captain Fun Larry Young. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
You got audio. Good. So it's John. It's not me.
I gotta say that I'm so happy to have you back from last week, because that I just can't figure out how to put that ad in and be. Yeah, we hear you, Snapper Car.
Just making sure, guys. How's everyone going today?
Love it.
I was just telling Dan, I love the beginning, the Earthman with no fear.
Oh, yeah.
I love all that, and then how that gives you time with the closing of the doors as an audience member to be like, okay, something cool is happening. And then you always go, oh, hey, everybody. Like, it's this big surprise that, like, we have an audience. And it's cool. And it's like so 1950s. But I love it. And it was just really, I went back and I was telling Walker about something. So I showed him the thing from last week. And it's just, to John and me, it's like, okay, are you ready? Okay, haha, that's pretty funny. And then I flip the switch and I'm like, I think it's on. I don't know. It takes a second. I'm not familiar with the controls.
I love it.
And then it just, to us, it looks like we have the same kind of get ready. Oh, hey, there you are, audience. Because it is actually kind of a surprise that it all worked.
It is.
But to the audience, it's just like, here's two numbnuts that are literally in the middle of like a guffaw about something idiotic. And that's not a great way to start something. So just wanted this a long way of saying thank you so much for being the adult in the room.
Well, I blame myself for my lack of training and preparing you guys. Like, where's the field operations manuals? Like, where's the break glass in case of no Dantron? We'll get there, guys.
If you're trying to train me, you got the wrong guy. You know, it's like,
I feel like we can get even you there, Captain.
I can block and I can scrape and then I can follow the ball, right? I'm not going to be making plays. I'm not going to be batting down. Anyway,
I think you can handle one click to do that. Like,
At the edge of the universe.
Not that hard. You could do. You could.
I couldn't find it. I couldn't. Is it brand? Is it banners?
I got you. That's the training part. I got it right at the top for you. Anyway, I've got some fun video stuff to show this week at the end too. But Larry has an agenda full of. John, do you feel like talking about Star Trek? Is that something we can like talk about on the? There's no artificial intelligence. There's no strike talk. There's no.
I mean, if you guys want to talk about Star Trek, that's fine. I got a lot of stuff going on in my life. You know, we can talk about whatever you want.
We can talk about my all new. One thing I got to do the last 2 weeks is I got to make 2 new sets for Serious Star Trek. I forgot that I had been neglecting classic sick bay. And it's like, look at those lines. They're just, these guys were geniuses.
Classic sick bay. Well, there's so much stuff to talk about. Oh my god! Like,
what do you want to talk about?
So where do you want to go? Do you want to chew over a philosophical question from Lower Decks? Do you want to give some shout outs to our boys? One of my pals from the comic book industry is doing some crazy stuff with Star Trek Migos. I wanted to give him a shout out. Sure. Jonathan Frakes is opening his mouth. Sir Patrick Stewart's memoir is out. So there's lots of exactly. I mean, we don't have to talk a lot about it, but I mean,
lots of Star Trek cringe to discuss this week. I'm sure. I love it.
All right, let's save
same Frakes article. Maybe we could start with the Frakes thing because I actually know what that is about.
So I have this hate relationship with Screen Rant because they suck just so very badly and very.
Also, they didn't hire me, so fuck that.
And then that's the second part. It's like, man, we know a guy that could turn that fucking ship around, really, get them the Pulitzer of whatever pop culture web stuff is. And they were like, no, I'm sorry, you're like way overqualified. We just want schmucks.
No.
So anyway, I have this hate relationship with them. I still read them, and they had an exclusive interview with Jonathan Frakes, who, like, seriously, that guy's the biggest whore, and I mean that in the best way. He will talk to anybody about any aspect of Star Trek at any time. I'm kind of surprised we haven't talked to him yet. Like, true. I mean, it's not like I know Guy Vardaman, we know John Suntress. We have a direct line to Frakes if we wanted, but
get Frakes in here.
So he's talking to Screen Rant some nonsense about Star Trek Legacy, and he's like, first of all, he's talking about it like it's a done deal, which I get it. He's an actor. He knows who the audience is. He's playing to the readers of that place, but come on. And I just won't even go down there. There's a big tunnel that says come on. Who gives a fuck? But he starts talking specifically that when this happens, here's the cast list.
Yeah.
And he goes down and tells why everybody obvious needs to be in the cast list. But then he added, and this is what the other thing, I'm like, okay, whatever. If there's a company man, there's a picture of Frakes next to it in the dictionary.
True.
So I get him all the way to this part where at the end, he checks off everybody you would figure and then goes, oh, yeah. And then, Troy and Riker have an older daughter from Picard season 1. And so she should be in it too. So it would be a true legacy. So you'd have Riker and Troy's kid, Picard, and he spells it all out. Picard and, Crusher's kid, and I don't know, whoever the other ones are. Geordi's daughters. Geordi's daughters. And that's the true legacy, and that's what should happen. And right at the end, it was like, wow, look at this rickety old World War II bomber that they put a new coat of paint on and got somebody going, and it's flying. And that's great. And then right at the end, it slams into the Volkswagen bus thing that's at the end of the runway. It's like, no, Frakes. Please do not do that.
I overall enjoyed that Picard season 3 thing, but that ending, that just clear shoehorn of a setup for a series that nobody the whole mission was to get us to love Jack Crusher and what a great guy he is. And I don't know, does anybody even talk about that character as like a popular thing, like out in the Star Trek forums and world? Is he a character that has like taken root in canon and like people care about, or is he like whatever Kirk's son, what's his face from Genesis Planet?
Well, I don't hang out with those kind of morons that much, but there is a big problem with these modern Star Trek guys where they skip over the whole make you care thing, right? True. They're like, okay, we're doing Star Trek. Star Trek has a built-in audience, so we can just do whatever we want. And that's not how TV works at all. Never in the history of anything. It's like maybe gladiators in Rome. It's like, I like seeing people get their throats ripped out, so I don't really care if it's a lion or some other slave. Maybe that works, but that's not how it works in the modern day, man. You have to know, like, what are these characters doing out there? What do they want? Why are they there? It's not like, oh, I'm related to these guys. Let's go.
That's so off. The fact that it's all like going to be relatives and like an inbred, really gross. Didn't like that. Thought that ruined the whole any goodwill that got built up, because you got to see the team back together, Star Trek Next Generation. That's what we wanted to see. And then they're like, all right, we've got your love and momentum. Now look, check out where we could be going. This is the future, guys. Ugh.
Just the whole conceit that here we go, and aren't you excited for the next chapter that we have teased? It's like everything that has ever sucked that's been obvious in retrospect to the fact that it's a lesson, right? You never say, let's do Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins, and tell everybody there's going to be 15 Remo Williams things before the first one that comes out, and you see if anybody gives a fucking shit. Down to the point where, you guys know I used to publish comics, and people would pitch me books like that all the time. This is the first part of a 3-part series.
Yeah.
Well, right there, because that's not how that goes. And so I get teasing stuff, but they didn't tease it. They drove you right up. They changed the tires on the old bus that you like. You made it look like, oh fuck, that's what the Dodge Challenger looks like now. Every time it passes me on the highway, I'm going to be reminded that there was a great version of that car 50 years ago. That's all they're doing as Star Trek now.
Yeah, and they instantly like Jack Crusher got fast tracked through Starfleet. Ugh, all those things that are just so wrong. So
look, just take a show that everyone loves, The Last Ship. There's right? It's kind of a Star Trek analog in that there's a paramilitary organization that's trying to do shit outside of the realm of how it used to be, right? And at no point, people get killed. People go and often start this village over there, and some people don't sign the contract that says they get an action figure. So those guys, get written out in some manner because that's how it goes, right? There's no fucking world where all of the Next Generation characters are still kind of together anyway and able to, turn on the lights to their old Partridge Family van that Geordi miraculously has got going again. Okay, give them that one, but you literally absolutely cannot say of all of those people, well, guess what? My kid grew up to be a little mini version of me. Oh, really? My kid grew up to be half me and half his mom, who's a cool doctor. So that guy's double Starfleet. Get him on a fast track. It just doesn't work like that. It's stupid. It's wrong. And even fucking 90210 doesn't work that way. And I don't know why these guys were allowed to do it. It's insane.
The only reason to love Jack Crusher is he's kind of a slap in the face to Will Wheaton. It's like we acknowledge he is going to be the anti-Wesley, in that Wesley was just a sniveling little grade grubbing little nothing.
I guess, but why do you need to slap Wesley? Right? It's a bad character. That's not.
We should always slap Wesley Crusher.
I mean, I kind of think Will Wheaton's kind of nebbish, but I think that's the one thing he doesn't deserve is all the fanboy shit for his idiot character. It's hey man, Russell Crowe's not making that character any better. You know what I mean?
It's funny. I actually don't think Wesley Crusher turned out that badly after a few seasons. Anyway, so quite a few things to discuss here, right? One, is Jack Crusher popular? I have a whole list. Is Jack Crusher popular?
Yes, I saw you take it.
Yes. Counselor Price is on the case now.
It's a really interesting question because while the show was going, you saw all these articles about, oh my God, Jack Crusher is the most popular character ever. Oh my God, this is the greatest new Star Trek character since blah, 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 right? But I think Dantron's right. I think he's basically just disappeared. Because in a lot of ways, these shows are meant to disappear, but that's a whole other thing. It's number 7 on my list. Okay.
Wait, asterisk that one. That's a great point that deserves more discussion. I don't know where your flow is going, but that's a great one.
Me neither, but we'll find out in a second. Okay. Nepo kids is my next note. So a few interesting points to talk about here. One it's perfectly reasonable that they all have kids, and it's perfectly reasonable that a lot of those kids go to Starfleet, right? I thought it made a lot of sense. I didn't have any issue at all with Geordie's kid being the helmsman. I thought that was a good, a good thing. Now Jack Crusher, a whole other side issue because he's but like again, like maybe Troy and Riker's kid, there was a daughter in season 1. Fast forward a few years, she probably does go to the academy or something, if we want to make Starfleet this kind of massive, huge organization, okay, fine, whatever. Sticking them all in the same ship is the stupidest thing you could ever do. But just the fact that they exist isn't by itself.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's not
an offensive sort of thing. And it does make me think of John McCain. And it makes me think of
thinking about that too.
It makes me think of John McCain because John McCain's great grandfather was an admiral. His grandfather was an admiral. His father was an admiral, and his kid is currently like a commander or something in the Navy. So like you do have these prominent families that do kind of generations of admiral's a big deal. Like at some point you're running shit if you're an admiral, right? So that kind of thing. But again, the idea that Starfleet is so massive, but all the same people show up on all the same things is just very, very stupid. And it makes me think of the original TNG sort of marching orders, which was no callbacks to TOS, none. They put McCoy in there, and that was like even that was a little too much. Like they didn't have there was no Orions. There was no Orions or Andorians.
I totally agree with that.
TNG.
I was thinking the same thing too. And just on the John McCain point before you move on is I also was hoping that Jack Crusher would be tortured and crippled by
Yes.
Also, before you move on, you might have seen me looking dismayed because it took me way too long to understand that you said John McCain because I heard John McClane. And I was trying to figure out, yeah, man, you're right. Maybe his dad was a detective. Is there some kind of thing in the books? I don't know. And then you're like going off on this serious thing. And I'm like, I am the biggest fucking idiot of all time.
Well, as we all know, John McCain's daughter is now piloting a ship in the series Ahsoka. So as we all know, there's a connection there. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, gorgeous woman. Anyway,
wait, she's John McCain's daughter?
McClane.
John McClane.
Lucy McClane.
Dude,
I was trying to circle that square.
Yeah, but you can't do that with her because then you're like, all I see is Hera's space booty.
Is awesome.
Oh.
She's in Die Hard 4, and she has like this great line where she basically tells the Apple guy to shut the hell up. Oh, it's so great. I love that movie. Anyway, I don't have an issue with people trying to pitch trilogies or franchises or anything because the current environment is they literally tell you have somewhere to go. Like literally you read these like, how do I pitch a movie? How do I pitch a thing? Like one of the things that they're always going to say to you is have a place to go with your story. What's the sequel? What's the third movie? Because, the line is always, the want fun standalone movies. So I don't necessarily have an issue with that. I understand that's probably, a pretty dramatic shift from very recently, but anyway. Final point. Have you guys?
I doubt it.
Have you guys been watching the show Wrestlers on Netflix?
No.
So it is a show about kind of a minor league wrestling league called OVW, the Ohio Valley Wrestling Association, and it's run by Al Snow, who anyone who knows WWF from the 90s will recognize Al Snow. He's just one of the wrestlers from the 90s, they're running out of money. They're basically bankrupts because Al Snow is not a businessman, but he's really good at like the wrestling part. And these investors come in, and they are all about marketing. They're all about splash. They're all about getting seats, filled. They're all about that. And Al Snow fucking hates this guy. He hates him so much, and you can just see it stewing over and over and over again. And there's this really remarkable scene right in the beginning of, it's like, 10 what the fuck it is. In the first couple episodes, where Al Snow is basically talking about storytelling, and he's talking about the importance of storytelling in wrestling is why you literally what you just said, Larry, make people care. If people don't care about these wrestling characters, they're not going to show up. Whereas the marketing guy is like, if we have a death match, everybody will show up, right? And that just screams Alex Kurtzman to me. Just screams Alex Kurtzman and J.J. Abrams and all this bullshit, where it's like they think the big flashy thing will get people to show up. Whereas Al Snow, the storyteller, is like, no, you need characters. You need people to care about these characters. You need these long, intricate plots and all that stuff. So anyway, that was my last point.
I think you're 100% right. And just look at the whole Star Trek, Star Wars thing, right? Everybody says that Star Wars is the big event thing in terms of the story. That's the big, the fate of the universe every 5 seconds. But then it swaps to TV, and now, all the characters in Star Wars before just had like logline backstories, right? And like now the Mandalorian is like its own world, right? Yeah. And it's because you give a shit about all those characters now. And like to the point where they're going to do the Avengers, Star Wars Avengers, where Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and the, whatever his name is, Din Djarin, they're all going to have a handshake, and Spider-Man's going to drop in and go, hey guys, what I missed? And I got a lightsaber, and everybody's going to go insane. And then J.J. Abrams is going to go, how come they like that? Right. I don't get it. I had a big event too.
I blew up worlds. Why didn't they like that?
It's like, dude, cart and horse. You have it mixed up. Yeah. And just because the format makes you want to tell stories like that, it doesn't mean that the people that buy the tickets don't have to give a shit. Right? I think they do, but starting with Super 8, that's where I noticed it with JJ, is that he thought that the people buying tickets were giving a shit about the really cool like visual effects mystery he was presenting, right? Which is not storytelling. It kind of seems like it is, and I guess if you're a millennial, but it's Captain Old Guy is I'm gonna go to my grave going, you have to give a shit about the characters.
I think it's pretty cool that it's a testament to what George Lucas did in Star Wars, the world building he is able to do just through visual storytelling, like not having to go in. We don't have to know anything about Boba Fett, really. We don't have to know all the intricate workings. It's just like it's all kind of implied there, and there's so much richness implied that now they can come back and fill in all those gaps and put in a lot of detail.
Isn't that great about he did that not just visually but also with dialogue and stuff? Like as a kid, as a kid, I loved, like I was, by the time Empire came out, I was like fully into the Star Wars universe, right? So I knew Boba Fett was coming. He shows up, and you basically hear that, from Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And he has, for legit, spurs coming on his boots. Like, where's that coming from? I don't know, but that's what that guy should sound like, And I don't know. The visual storytelling, but they also do it in dialogue where it's like Vader comes in, steps over the bodies of his dead guys, doesn't give a shit, and says to the guy, fucking, there'll be no one to stop us this time. And the fucking blood came out of my ears, man, because I was like, yes, of course. This is not just me seeing this guy and being frightened from obvious space evil for the first time. There's no one to stop him this time. Like, he's had a bunch of shit going on before. And they just did that with a couple of words, right? And then we have to, go through all this prequels and all that bullshit. But like, I thought that was amazing.
Well, just staying with Boba Fett, they're on the Star Destroyer, and he goes, no disintegrations.
Right.
Like, that's it. That's the whole story. That's the whole backstory to Boba Fett right there. It's like, oh, shit. At some point, he burned the fuck out of someone, and it pissed off Vader. Cool. That's awesome. I'm in. Next. Let's do
No, it's because you can't prove a bounty if somebody's been disintegrated.
Mhm.
But I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
I just being a super nerd that can't let things go. That's all. See, I have the rank.
And then I don't know how much you give. I mean, ultimately, you got to give credit to Lucas, but then you look at like I get what's his name, Macquarie, and all the stuff.
Oh, it's everybody he got was top of their games, man.
Lucas gets the credit, but it's that whole Star Wars.
But I mean, who do you give credit to, right? Because he put everybody together. He had the idea to like do his riff on Flash Gordon through, Joseph Campbell, and that's why everything's so cool because it's just everything that everybody likes. Hey, let's. There's a wizard and a farm boy, and let's do Laurel and Hardy comic relief, but make them robots. Let's have Space Hitler and some more Hitlers. Yeah. I mean, it's
never too many Hitlers.
It's so obvious in retrospect and so genius, even after you know where the trick is. It's like, yeah, I mean, I could combine all those things too if you gave me those things on a slip of paper, but it wouldn't come out that cool.
No, of course. Yeah, it's the detail and also the budget. I was trying to figure out what was the budget for Star Wars. I know I could have just Googled that, but I'm wondering what did you have to spend in 1970s dollars to make?
I think it was $7 million, right?
That's insanity.
Chris Sag would know, but I have this book, The Art of Star Wars, where they say. And I got $7 million in my head. It might be 20 though, right? I don't know.
Because it's like they're inventing technologies for
11. Everybody's saying 11. That makes sense.
Which I'm sure was a ton then, but it just seems like that's not even craft services at this point.
Right.
You should read that book. That Rinsler, the bad guy in Tron Legacy. They have, a chant Rinsler. It's actually they named that character after this guy J.L. Rinsler, who just recently died of like liver cancer or something, but who did all these cool behind the scenes books for Lucasfilm, and it was cool. The one about Star Wars is amazing. Like George Lucas, I didn't know at the time, George Lucas. I just go, hey, this People magazine, those guys are robots. That's really cool. I love this movie. And, he had a friggin' heart attack. That's crazy because of the stress.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Who had a heart attack?
George.
Oh.
During the filming?
I don't know. It's in the book.
Somewhere.
Was that before or after?
It's not during. It's during the production, but I think London.
Oh, my gosh.
Was stopped.
Speaking of heart attacks, by the way, rest in peace. Hank Shaheen, my first cousin, passed away 68. He had a lot of health problems and a lot of issues. He was a rock and roller in a rock and roll band called Fragile, and he lived as rock and roll lifestyle as was
68 is pretty good for rock and roll.
Dude, he had a custom van with a waterbed, and he did the whole thing. You look up the band Fragile from the 80s in Bay Area. And it's a thing to see. Anyway, rest in peace, Hank. He would watch the show. He watched the show, and he used to comment occasionally. There's a few comments from him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Who else died? Joe Matt.
Jesus. There's more Star Trek to talk about.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go, Larry. What's left? What's left?
Who else died?
There were a couple of big deaths. Oh, and heart attacks. Yeah, some podcasting guys. A lot of like health issues this week. That's why sick bay was on my mind.
Oh, okay. Yikes! That brings the tempo down.
Oh,
so let's talk about Lower Decks, huh?
So here's my thing about Lower Decks. So obviously Lower Decks is what's going on now. That's the fresh new Star Trek, to the point that my kid who loves it still hasn't seen the latest one, is mad at me that I've seen it. So I can talk about it because he's not listening to this because Mr. Football is too big shot to hang out with the nerds anymore.
Nice.
But he will be amazed that this Talin character is very, very rich. and I think that's cool for Lower Decks because they had to do something right away to advance the characters when they got their their promotions in rank. They had to have a couple of lines like, we're not like literally the Lower Decks guys anymore because we've kind of been promoted out of sleeping in the hallway. So we're, what are they? Lieutenant junior grades, right?
Yeah, they're JGs. Yeah.
So they have their own quarters. They share them with other officers.
Right, they share.
They have their own quarters. So it's not really, the conceit isn't that they're the shitheads anymore. But they say it amongst themselves that they're always going to be Lower Decks, and I fucking love that instantly. Because it's the whole dumb thing that fanboys try to do, that like 007 is just like his code name and it's a different guy every time. Like James Bond's like a rank that you hold. And it really works for the Lower Decks because I can see a Lower Decks theatrical film where they're fucking fighting the Borg or whatever the equivalent is in 2035. And they're the main bridge crew and everybody's fucking openly weeping like Captain America's got Thor's hammer because they remember when these shitheads were sleeping in the hallway. And I think Mike McMahon is a genius because we're going to see that happen. Anyway, and I got all of that from this episode with Talin because that show was tight. It was fantastic. Those guys are stuff like they're fucking writing Shakespeare, but it's opening night mic at the coffee house, and that's the only platform they have, so they're just gonna fucking do it. But you're getting open mic Shakespeare, and those guys are amazing. I love them. These guys are so cool that, like, you guys know I've had a pretty charmed life with celebrities and stuff, weird Hollywood interactions, and I don't care anymore. The whole part of my soul is gone. But I'm pretty sure that I don't want to meet the Titmouse guys, the animation guys, because I hate cartoons, but I love them, and I would just fucking fall apart. I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know how to emotionally behave.
Cognitive dissonance from Captain Fun.
So hopefully Rick Austin's not seeing that because he's buddies with us.
But let me ask you this, Larry. Let me ask you this. Could you do Lower Decks as a live action series, and would it be?
Yes. And up and down the street.
You think you could?
You saw the crossover.
Would it work? Would it work in the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. It would have to be a half an hour though, because you can't do that pace for an hour show. The audience would get tired.
Right.
But you do that for a half an hour, you could have that exact same show in live action. Just do the exact same show.
Yeah.
Okay. A whole thing about like how do you pronounce Mugatu? What's the correct thing there? Every single thing they do completely 100% translates.
There's sometimes there's a cartoony, like the jokes can be way more over the top when it's coming out of a cartoon kind of, and you still sort of are invested and you kind of like buy it a little bit, whereas maybe you can't push it quite as far if it was live action.
That's what I'm saying. If you have the tone and the pacing exactly the same, well, when you do that live action, people know where it comes from, right? So anything that doesn't, you totally have the audience on your side. Like the whole thing where in the crossover episode with Strange New Worlds, where Boimler's like under the thing, all like wrapped up in cables and doing that Boimler thing.
Yeah,
I get what they were doing. Kind of doesn't work in live action, but that's a fucking Boimler thing. So right on. You see what I mean? I think that's what you would get if you tried to do a half-hour live action of that. Has to be the same pace though, because otherwise, why bother, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there would be differences just between like staging and blocking and everything, but you couldn't have Mariner jump 50 feet in the air, stuff like that. But yeah, I think if you write it as a live action show, it would definitely be. You could take those scripts, do 90% of it like as is. Just right.
Yeah, now. I mean, I think you could do the whole thing. Like, why?
I mean, Orville was kind of a live action comedy Star Trek thing. So, like, right? It proves
at times.
What's the holdup? The comedy part of the show? You just don't think that that cartoonish comedy and storytelling.
Well, I think there would
translates
have to be
live action.
changes made. Is the point? It works really well. They can go. You can do that non sequitur thing. You can do a lot of things in animation that are.
But then that's
maybe-
just you're adapting from one format to another, right?
Right.
Because there's stuff that works in animation. That
This is
doesn't.
what I'm saying, and I wonder just if it would be as funny and whether it would be as good or not. I don't know.
What?
Badgie
Give us.
might be tough.
What's
That's
your
true.
budget? John and I will make that happen for you. What's
Well, that's
your
the other
budget?
problem, right?
We'll
Yeah,
test it both ways.
that's the. I wonder which is cheaper, and I also wonder is animation strike proof now that the writer's strike is over because it's not Screen Actors Guild that manages voice actors. I think there's a whole other.
You know, I'm old. I can't follow this stuff anymore. You know, what'd you make on the opening weekend? I don't know. They had boobies in it, and a guy got shot in the head, and that was cool.
That's a fun movie.
That's where I'm at. You know, I can't keep track of everybody's contract, and I think it's shitty that they make people care about that.
Oh yeah. Well,
I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always just going to support like labor just out of by default. So I think it's worth like, especially fans like sticking up for the people that do the work that they love so much.
But what are you going to do? Boycott Disney? Boycott studios?
Yes.
Okay.
If that's what it takes.
If you're a fan,
like
you ever see a fan boycott ever work for anything? They can't, because you're asking people who love something to go without the thing they love to prove some abstract point that they kind of don't really care
True.
about.
It does. It would. Yeah. I really wonder how fans would respond to it if they're just like, fuck it, give me I want my stuff. I don't care.
But this sounds like never happened, never works. Steve Euclid comes in.
I don't know if there's an appeal. If there's an appeal from their union to the public to say like, look, we're calling for a public boycott, then I'd be interested to see if that would work or not. Because if it didn't, it would break their back.
What are you boycotting though?
What are we boycotting?
Yeah, if they say, hey, we're calling for a public boycott. We need the public to take these steps.
Cancel your streaming. It's actually better. It's easier.
Never going to happen.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm good.
Like,
I would.
No, like, you're going to have that conversation with your kids. They can't watch
I don't
Disney
cross
Plus
pixel
anymore.
lines, dude. I mean, I support unions in that way fully. I make money from unions too, so might be part of it. But I'm also a union baby. My parents are in unions. Like, it's important, and it's all we got left against the true villains, the billionaire class.
I just think that's awesome that you think that, because there's nothing a person can do to have an immediate impact on it. This isn't like your vote counts, because your vote does count, right? There is a situation where your vote is the one that ties up or whatever, right? But there's no situation where some billionaire goes, yeah, fucking Dan Shaheen is right. That guy's gone 36 hours without Disney Plus, and his daughters have been.
I mean, if nobody else supports labor, you're right. But if people did, then they would. So that's
Hector's calling you names in the.
I know that's the choice. That's the choice that we make. That's the choice that we have to make. I'm as American. I'm as capitalist as you can be, and I'm a dyed-in-the-wool libertarian. But like, unions are a thing we need, man.
I just think you don't even have to wait to get to any kind of like sort of label for yourself to get to understand what realism is and reality, in that no one's going to boycott Disney.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the real question. They haven't called for one yet, so it hasn't been tested.
Like, John, I have a question for you, real quick. How does someone not come up as Facebook user, right? Because then you log into Facebook and you can see the person's name.
Yeah.
You know, but on comments over here, it just
it's a StreamYard thing. You have to authorize StreamYard to like be able to show your name. The best answer, Facebook user. If you want to reveal yourself, go on to YouTube and do it there, and your name will go. Or I don't even know what you have to do from Facebook, but there's something you do to authorize StreamYard to show your name.
I would just like to throw in, I don't care what your name is. Thank you for the comment on my jacket. That's how I was raised.
But hey, by the way, thank you for moving to YouTube. Thank you. I don't care where you watch. I just love that you guys watch and interact. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah,
you
this is
want to
awesome.
support this channel and me a little bit, because believe it or not, this thing costs money. Let's go to a PBS moment here because it's your support, folks. And I don't even need your money. You don't got to give me money. Just go like the video. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe on YouTube. That's very helpful to me.
It was big show.
It's helpful to my endorphin levels when I look at my YouTube analytics.
Oh no, I can't find the comment anymore. We had a really nice shout out on Twitter, and I can't find it. Oh no. Oh,
yeah,
no.
that's cool. Over on Facebook, I'm doing a different costume every day of October, counting down to revealing my 100% awesome Jackson green bunny from Star Wars. Han Solo's best friend from Star Wars number 8, created by Archie Goodwin and Howard Chaykin, believe it or not.
Yeah, Blair, that
might be David Michelin.
What a great segue just for a second for Thursday. We're going to do a thing about comics. I'm going to talk about a thing. Larry sparked a great thread about public domain and who would want to even do public domain characters. But I've got a great, you just mentioned him, Howard Chaykin did an awesome public domain adaptation, and I want to look at that.
What? I'm dying to know. What
he
was
did
it?
Gladiator. He did Philip Wiley's.
Oh.
He called it
You're in
Legend.
love with Gladiator.
And he said it in the 1960s. He said it in Vietnam instead of World War I.
Well, that sounds cool.
It's okay. It's pretty good. Russ Heath artwork.
What's it called?
It's called Legend.
Russ Heath.
Heath.
How is that just okay? Howie writing and Russ Heath? Come on. That's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for sure. But I'm fresh off reading the novel, and it's
I see. Yeah.
It's real interesting what he changed, what they left out. Some things I like more, some things I don't. We'll talk about that on Thursday, I think. Unless I'm swamped, I might have to cancel and push it to the following week, but we'll see.
I gotta tell Philo's like have an episode on Larry's costumes. It's pretty funny. Love that A2, which is pretty cool. That's the thing I put up today from Skull Island. That was fun.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That reminds me, tomorrow, man, I'm going to use. I made my kid 2 years ago get into the Space 1999 costume for September 13th.
Ooh,
I will use that.
Ooh,
give Philo the credit because there is an actual episode you can watch on one of Larry's costumes.
That could be like a Patreon exclusive. Like, if you pay us enough money, Larry will walk you around.
Larry wears those MeUndies that you bought him.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point, we'll do it for a thumbs up on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Man.
So we got this really. I want to shout out at Scotsman Anger. I don't know who you are, Scotsman Anger, but I appreciate it. You're always liking my stuff, which I really like that because I'm a narcissist. I was babbling on about Star Trek, and he goes, he or she or they go, there's such an overwhelming number of moron pinky dick fanboys on social media that sifting the cesspool to find credible, intelligent dialogue has become overwhelming and exasperating. Thank the stars for Serious Star Trek podcast Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern. This guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's awesome. That really made my morning. I had kind of a shitty morning. I really appreciate that. And why I was blasting off on Twitter in the first place. But yeah, it was awesome. Thanks.
I just like that people get it finally, right?
Yeah.
We're a couple of jackasses and stuff, but like
sometimes,
talk about some serious stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes we talk about John McCain.
I swear to God. Admiral John McClane.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hopefully they scanned all Bruce Willis.
It's a real shame about. I was gonna say it's a real shame about Bruce Willis. Brucey Willis. R.I.P.
What are you gonna do?
What?
What? Did you put that up?
Yeah, no, but wait, then I didn't hear. We'll check out.
There it is. There it is.
I love that.
You know Craig Burley, it's like a soccer reference.
I have no idea any of that stuff. I don't know anything about the United Kingdom. I'm an American history.
The best feedback I've ever got is from the
we
UK.
do share a common idea of the moron Pinky Dick dimwit.
That's true.
Whatever
That's
he
true.
wrote.
We all agree on moron Pinky Dick fanboys on social media.
So see, hands across the water. We can
Mr.
agree
Shannonites coming in late. Welcome, Mr. Shannonite. I don't know who you are, but welcome.
There was one more start. Oh, yeah, Patrick Stewart.
I don't want to talk
memoir
about
came out,
Stewart.
which of course is called "Make It So."
Of course it is.
Oh, please.
He's the most uncreative person to ever step foot in Hollywood.
So that's what I was going to say. He's all taking credit for. He told the story about how they talked him into Picard.
Of course.
Which was just, if you've ever had a Hollywood meeting or have read something or have listened to me talk about why I don't move to Burbank, it's because there's one story. These fucking people know I'm coming down from San Francisco, and they're like, oh, power move. We have to reschedule for tomorrow. I'm like, you guys know I came down from San Francisco, right? I'm never coming back here again. They're like, okay, we'll reschedule. I'm like, no, we're not. And then I went home. And so they did that to Patrick Stewart.
That's
they're
amazing.
like, he comes over and they're like, hey, we want to talk to you about this thing. Come meet us at the Bel Air. We're gonna have Alex Kurtzman. We're gonna have J.J. Abrams. We're gonna have these two writers. It's gonna be a trip. And he's like, okay, come on, I'll go check it out. I'll hear some lunch or whatever the British version of Old Man that is.
Cheerio.
And he gets there and
That's
it's just the writers. And he's
That's
like,
incredible.
oh, well, I can tell I'm going to be pitched. And then they pitch me and it's great. And so I said, yes, I'm really excited about doing this. I don't know. These fuckers should have come talk to me the first time. And then they set up the next meeting and then I get to talk to Alex Kurtzman and everything's cool. And I was reading all this and it chilled me to the fucking bone because these guys who aren't, they're just not worthy to smell Patrick Stewart's ass crack, are making him jump through this shit that he doesn't have to do. The guy's like 80, 90, 100 years old, whatever he is. I don't know. They're making him do all that and act like some ingenue no one's heard of. Come on, man.
But did he describe the part where they opened up the duffel bag full of cruise cans or whatever?
Well, but that's a given, right? Like that's okay.
The pitch meeting is here's a giant bag of money. That's the pitch meeting. Yeah.
But it's not. That's the given. The given is that you're going to give me a giant bag of money. What am I going to like it? Because that's what you have to sell me on. Because I'm an old man. I'm not going to, because you know his thing. I'm not putting on the uniform. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like,
yeah.
well, we're going to get you to do it eventually because that's what everyone
They
wants.
totally got him to do, of course. And he would have done it from
Right.
the beginning. Like they probably could have said no, but like,
Well,
they must have been embracing his whole I don't want it to be Star Trek thing. Because I watched, like I said, I only watched like the first episode of the first season of Picard, and this is unrecognizable. It was incomprehensible.
Well, I do. I mean, and to their credit, they did try to do something different. What they did was terrible, but like, I don't think Patrick Stewart was necessarily wrong to be like, hey, I don't want to just go back and say engage, like, and do the Picard maneuver, right? That's not what I want to do. I want to do something else. Like, if I'm coming back, I'm fucking 80 years old. If I'm coming back, I'm going to do something else, right? So I don't necessarily disagree with that idea, but I just will always remember, Michael Chabon had this interview or Instagram post or whatever the fuck it was. And he's like, look, I understand the problems, but nobody would watch if it was just Jean-Luc Picard tottering around his vineyard. And it's just literally thousands of comments being like, I would watch that. That's all I wanted. All we wanted was this. I would watch that in a second, comment after comment after comment. So they just completely misunderstood why people like Picard in the first place as a character, because Patrick Stewart has no fucking idea. As clearly evidenced by the movies, where they kept giving him more control over those movies, and they're fucking awful.
That's what I'm saying. Is he a himbo? Is he kind of like just a dummy, like a lot of actors are? That he has gravitas and he has all the skills, but he's just like there's not much going on.
Probably. I mean, I don't know the man, but
I loved his cameo in Extras. I think I've talked about that before. Did you ever see that Ricky Gervais Extras?
Yes, yeah, Extras was great.
He
I
mocks
watched Ricky
himself
Gervais.
so well.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart's part in that is so hilarious. It's almost believable that he's that much of a dummy after.
Yeah.
Seeing
But yeah, I just think
this is a good idea. I would watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. We all would have loved it. Like,
can you imagine just
him and his dog? You know?
Yeah, you start and you end every show with a crane shot, either coming in or going out of the vineyard, and him throwing a fucking space tennis ball to his fucking space bulldog. Talk about just everyone happy.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Yeah, I probably would have watched that. I could have enjoyed that. I think too.
But they got in their heads. They wanted butts in the seats, and instead of caring about the characters, they tried to go for the big bang, and it ended up being terrible. And then finally, it got so bad to the point where then some asshole comes in and is like, "What if we just do Star Trek?" And everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're the savior of Star Trek!"
You're a genius.
Like.
Why did it have to be an asshole though? That's
true. That's really the good part. Question.
Because you know what Star Trek doesn't fucking need is
more
some
assholes.
Dipshit from Chicago.
It's true.
Like, and everybody's all sucking their dicks and saying, "Oh, we need to do Legacy." I'm like, no. You fundamentally do not understand Star Trek.
There's got to be a level of like astroturfing there, because they were like literally the night of the finale, they were all on fucking Twitter being like, "Ooh, hashtag Star Trek Legacy, hashtag Star Trek Legacy, retweet hashtag Star Trek Legacy if you want it to happen." And it's like, that's not our only option. Like, you guys know that, right? That's not the only option.
I don't want that at all.
A lot of people don't want that.
I want a series that opens up with that ship is destroyed and everybody is murdered.
Hell yeah.
and then the old crew comes.
Alien 3, everything that you liked about the last two movies is gone.
That would be great. Well, but nobody liked it. I don't know. It was just such a tonal misfire, and like everything people did, like we were hoping for it. Everyone was rooting for Picard season 3.
Yeah.
We really were, like, even after 2 seasons of garbage, are going like, all right. They course corrected. I get like the whole thing in Hollywood. It's a big, like a super tanker, right? Because they don't even get the feedback from season 1 until they're done writing the scripts for season 2. So like, how can you adjust until it's like, then they're in the middle of producing season 2 and they realize, oh fuck, what did we do? Nobody likes this stuff. And then they called in the wolf to fix it, and they're just like, he hit the fucking reset switch. He's like, oh, not that hard to solve.
That's one thing I did like about like the Shaban, when Shaban became showrunner, they had already started filming. They had multiple episodes done when they put Shaban in charge. And like the first thing he did was he did that episode with Riker and Troy. He's like, where the hell are Riker and Troy in all this? Like, we need to like actually start like something tangentially related to Star Trek. Like, so I'll give the man credit for things like, for recognizing that would be an issue. But I mean, yeah, no, you're right. It's like, because they wrote and filmed season 2 and season 3 of Picard back to back. And one of the things that Terry Matalas has repeatedly said in interviews is like, one of the benefits of season 3 is that they stopped giving a shit, and they all turned their eyes of Sauron to other things. Kurtzman was doing his thing. Cuba Goldman was doing his thing. Yeah. They left him alone to basically do what he wanted for season 3 after micromanaging season 2, which was an interesting commentary on the industry, I guess. But yeah. It's all stupid. Brian Shaneman, you just won yourself a Quatlio with the best comment of the day. If it wasn't for Picard, you couldn't buy Dave Blass's drafting table for $200.
Yeah.
I don't wish ill on anyone.
Shaneman's got to have a
through that. You're gonna have to walk me through this.
So Dave Blass is currently unemployed.
Oh, that's right. This was last week.
Yeah, Dave Blass currently unemployed. And for whatever legal reasons, he doesn't qualify for any benefits from any of the guilds because his legal residence is in Canada. So he's basically whoring out everything in his apartment, house, whatever. And it's I don't wish ill on anyone, but when you're an asshole, sometimes you do it.
It's just Philo last week saw on one of the Star Trek prop forums.
Yeah,
He was selling it and saying it's a vintage thing,
right,
and it was
vintage.
it's more like I'm with Price, dude's got to do what you got to do. I'm not making fun of that at all. It's more that his copy made it sound like he was selling the first appearance of Miles Morales in Spider-Man graded at a 9.8,
or like
that was
Orson
used
Welles,
in an episode of Big Bang Theory on screen.
Right.
And it's like, dude, that's the table that you did your job on. Okay, that's cool.
And here's my ignorant. Who's this guy? He's like a production designer, right?
He's production designer of Star Trek
Discovery.
Picard Season 3. Yeah.
Oh, Picard Season 3 and
Yeah.
Discovery.
So he was kind of like the attack dog, the social media attack dog.
I mean, we should give the guy credit. He's the production designer, right? So it's kind of a big. He's not like a guy that puts up like police signs on the squad cars, right? I mean, he's got a legit job. He's got like up for an Emmy for Justified. It was great, right?
I think he did a good
job. My thing with Dave Blass is there's no fucking reason any Star Trek fan should know who he is, because he starts acting like he's fucking Hua Chang or something. And it's like, no, man, you're a dude doing a job. History gets to decide whether you're all that or not. You don't get to and so now he's selling his drafting table that he designed the new Enterprise on and worked on the boys, and this is a friggin' historical piece of fucking It was funny. Man. And then it's I started to feel bad because it went from $300 to $277. And then $250, and now it's around $200.
Oh no!
And he just wants to get it out. And will somebody give Dave Blass some money so he can get some orange juice for the fucking screwdrivers he wants to drink? And it's just
Did you do Strange New Worlds too?
I don't know. I don't know. No, he started fucking with people online, and that's just not his job. And so I stopped paying attention to him because right. John Price, man, I was off on something, and John said to me, "Yeah, man, that's just your thing." And I went, "Oh my God, that's true. That's just my thing. No one else gives a fucking shit. That's my thing, though, and that's cool. But I have to realize that's just my thing." And so every once in a while, I take that taken that to super hard about my interactions with everyone else, and sometimes it's just, hey, Dave Blass is just living his life, man. Yeah, he wants to try to sell his fucking IKEA shit. That's just his thing.
Right.
I gotta let him have it.
I mean, we've all had our fun with Mr. Blass online, but I do not wish ill on anyone. The guy needs to eat. He needs to, pay his rent. So good for him.
Guaranteed, all these guys like Metalis. I was thinking about you'd probably have a good dinner with Terry Metalis. Like if you could just nerd out about. Whatever.
Oh yeah.
He's probably a good guy.
Have you seen the Back to the Future DeLorean making of saving the DeLorean outside of Universal documentary?
No.
Okay, he's like 28 years old and was the production guy on that, and it's fucking absolutely insufferable. And I'm not sure that I could sit down at a table with him having seen that movie, because I'm like, hey man, like I was just a giant prick, I'm sure, when I was 28 too, but there's no movie on Netflix that you can watch. And anyway.
I mean, you guys remember when we went to GalaxyCon, Terry Metalis was one of the interviews that we went to. And I came back very, very positive. This guy knows what he's talking about. He's saying all the right things. He clearly has the right perspective. I probably could have a really good time with him just nerding out about Star Trek stuff. So, again, I don't wish ill on anyone. He got a chance to do his Star Trek, and he did an above average job, which in this Star Trek environment is like fucking you're King Arthur, nailing it, so anyway.
Just don't get these misogynists started on Kathleen Kennedy though, folks.
Oh boy.
Just kidding. I've never seen.
I like Queen Kathy.
I love Kathleen Kennedy. That's
track record is fine, dude.
Everyone gives her shit because they misunderstand what her job is. Everyone's like, "Oh, keep Kathleen Kennedy out of Star Wars." It's like, bro, have you looked at her bylines? she's
I was
not
gonna say.
she's not like the creative force behind Star Wars. She never was. Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Anyway.
she's a good executive and a good like organizer.
She's the executive. She's
Yeah.
like one of the most powerful female executives of all time.
I
if
would
not
say,
the most powerful, next to Desi herself.
That's
You
why
don't
people hate her.
you don't even have to say female. She's one of the most
Yeah.
Right.
successful producers
Yeah.
in Hollywood fucking since the beginning of Hollywood ever. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
Right.
So yeah,
I mean, you
love
watch
Fast.
what? Have you ever watched like
I love Fast Boy, guys. I love it.
Have you ever watched the credits to Raiders and just be like, oh my god, like intern to Mr. Marshall, Kathleen Kennedy, and you're like,
really?
holy shit,
That's
dude!
cool.
Like, it's this whole like laundry list because it's all the same. It's that whole entire, it's Spielberg and Lucas and literally everyone who spawns off from them. So yeah, it's a fun time. I like Raiders.
Boys, speaking of end credits,
doesn't?
fun times. Well, here we are. It's 4 p.m. I got younglings coming home from daycare pretty soon, so I think it's time to wrap it up. Larry, did we get through to your list of all the Star Trek stuff?
We did. Sir Pat's memoir, Lower Decks, Frakes. Yeah, that was my list.
Let me double check.
Some. What was that thing that you said? John said something. I was like, man, we should circle back to that. That was
these
cool.
things are meant to disappear. They're not meant to last.
Oh yeah. I think that.
Talk about that.
Yeah, dang, that I could do a whole show on that, man.
Let's do it next time.
Those guys,
Where's
let's
it gonna
not
be?
forget when we're talking about the difference between Mike McMahon and Kurtzman is that right there. Kurtzman knows that he doesn't get to say what joke lasts forever. That's somebody laughing at your joke and telling their friend this is a big fucking joke. And so he just does his job telling jokes. And if history says that's fucking great, well, then there you go. Kurtzman and those guys are like, no, this is Star Trek. This will last forever. And they have no fucking idea how to make Star Trek. And so they're up their own ass going, oh my God, history is going to say that we're assholes. And it's self-fulfilling prophecy, man, because you are. You're not doing Star Trek.
It's true. Alex Kurtzman is an asshole.
That was me summing it up.
I love it.
I could have done 10 minutes on that.
On that note of wisdom from Captain Fun, it's time to wrap this thing up, boys. But we will be back, I think, right next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time. Wait a minute. Before I say where it's going to be, I've gone to introduce something new at the end of the show. Something that I want to call our moment of blend. Right. And so we will show that moment of blend and we will come back and it will be Tuesday. It will be 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time. But where, Captain Fun, where's that thing going to be?
On the internet.
Talking a big beamer, shoot shots on the man and the cool cleaners. There's been a little spill in that block we was last week where the boys put them feelers. I just wanna bust shots on the block Jesus. I just wanna whip white while I smash cans. I just wanna whip round with a few shooters. I just want a few points and a few fans. Big 16s and I blew that. Now son, you don't wanna do that.